Good morning. How are you today? Well, the weather's beautiful, and it may rain, but it's not now, so that's really good. I think that we're being thrust back into the Mueller investigation and the obstruction of the last administration run by the Orange Menace, he whose name I'd rather not mention, but will probably necessarily have to. The past administration did things that without question were crimes, particularly obstruction, but also more than that. And we may remember the big flap when Mueller was issuing his report. There was a 4-page memo written by the mouthpiece for Trump, that is Mr. Barr, who was actually misrepresenting what was in the report. Hence, the local bird is not happy with what I'm talking about. And so Ari and I discussed that, as did others, how he could absorb, as it turned out, a 450-page report in a matter of hours and then declare what it said. And what we found out is all part of a campaign. And then there have been FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests, to find out other information about this period. And what 2 judges have found is that they were misled by the Trump administration about these matters. But the new administration, the Garland administration, the Democratic administration, there should be fear of any concern about these things, has been withholding the information before the judges about what was said in internal memos. And one judge, Jackson, who's had experience in this case, in the Manafort case, she's been concerned that material has been withheld from her for no good reason, claiming it was for deliberation, when in fact Barr had already decided what he was going to say, and this memo had nothing to do with deliberation. But in addition, it seems to reveal that they had a set piece of why they were going to explain that Trump couldn't have committed any crime. And if you remember what the Mueller report said, the Mueller report said in 2 places, but particularly in the second section, that they had not investigated Trump or his family or his finances, and that's something the FBI should do. And many of us believe that that's what he was looking at, that he was looking at that very thing. And so we have the Mueller report saying, no, that's not what he was looking at. Well, we had a lot of bad players there, but here's my question. My question is, why in blazes is the Garland administration withholding the information of misconduct by the Trump administration and by its mouthpiece? What is that about? That is wrong. And then on top of it, in the next week or so, we're going to have McGahn testify behind closed doors on the Hill about Trump instructing him to obstruct the Mueller investigation and to have Sessions fire him. Now, there is more to it than that. But the administration apparently wants to strike from the record the Court of Appeals panel decision that Congress has standing to seek a subpoena, as it did in this case. So why are they doing that? And this is the Garland Justice Department. So I think it's part of the most charitable way I can put it is that Garland and company don't want to rock the boat. They don't want this thing to blow up into a real investigation. And it's going to bite them in the ass. That's a technical expression. When we have the midterm elections next year, because this kind of conduct reaffirms what the Trump administration was doing, which was obstructing, except they're making it permissible to obstruct. Okay, so there's that. Another thing that annoys me, and maybe you as well. Okay, here we are at the anniversary of George Floyd's killing by a racist cop who's since been convicted and hopefully will go to prison for 40 years, but that hasn't happened. We have had pending all this time a bill that went breezing through the U.S. Congress on the House side and is sitting on the Senate side, and the resistance among Republicans, they say, is giving immunity. They want to keep the immunity for police officers who do this crazy stuff. who abuse persons of color and others for no good, distinguishable, acceptable judicial reason. And they want to say, oh, you're protected. And this is the sticking point. Now, what are the Dems doing? I don't know if you remember, Zeno, I think it was, had this notion of an arrow traveling through space. And it was always at rest at each location as it traveled toward a target. And there was also a notion that if it divided the space each time halfway to the target, it would never reach the target. Well, I think that's fallacious reasoning, because for one thing, the arrow is not at rest except using camera work. It has a vector of force and velocity in a certain direction, and that's how it's going to hit the target. But put that aside, Congress is perfect. You know, they're always at rest at each juncture, and you think they're going somewhere, but they're cutting the time in half all the way, and they don't get there. And why would they do that? Because the election is more important. It's more important to have the issue that Republicans are opposed to removing immunity from these bad cops. And why would they want to do that? Because it helps them get reelected. Now, you might say, well, what can they do? Well, they don't have to bargain with the Republicans. They can leave the Republicans behind. They can get rid of the 60-vote rule. They can vote for this bill and have it done and have it be law and show the nation that they mean business. But they're losing their nerve. They're into the cycle, and they're thinking about how they get reelected, not how they do good. And so strip away their language and ask them, why aren't you doing the right thing here? What are you waiting for? Are you raising money? Are you giving an issue against Republicans? You think the average citizen, what do we got to do? We the people, who I think gave backbone to politicians in the last election, have to give them backbone again. And I know persons of color are going to do it. But if white privilege means anything, we have to put our shoulder to the problem here and get all those politicians to do the right thing. And that includes Manchin and any of these naysayers who drag their legs like they want to do so much good and they're not doing it at all. Okay, so I'm done. Have a good day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.